The parts of China's largest economic hub, Shanghai, are back under new lockdown restrictions just days after the citywide lockdown was lifted. The decision was made after the officials found new cases of COVID-19 infections within the community. The President Xi Jinping has said that China must stick unswervingly in its zero-COVID strategy. 13 districts of Shanghai will conduct COVID testing for all of its residents over the weekend, while some districts announced that no residents will be allowed to leave their house when the tests will be carried out. The Shanghai's Minhang district will conduct a nucleic acid test for the entire population on Saturday. They've also ordered its residents to stay at home during the testing process. Now, according to authorities, the decision has been taken to prevent the outbreak of the virus, and this move has come after the zero-COVID policy which the country is following to curb the spread of COVID-19 infections, which has left dozens of cities under full or partial lockdowns. While some areas have followed district-based controls, the residents of Shanghai were taken by surprise and were concerned as the announcements were made. People showed their discomfort on Weibo, a Twitter-like platform in China. Some were also unhappy as their weekend plans got ruined, while others feared that an imminent lockdown is likely to follow this decision. Now, the move comes on top of the already troublesome testing requirements that the city has introduced for its 25 million residents after easing a citywide lockdown on the 1st of June. Residents are required to carry a proof of COVID test which is taken in the last 72 hours to enter into any public area, hence leaving a lot of people frustrated as they have to wait in long queues for several hours just to get themselves tested first. Now, Shanghai was under a 2-month-long lockdown earlier to control the spread of the virus. This fueled widespread frustration, anger and even rare protests amongst the residents. The lockdown resulted in the residents grappling with lost incomes, the loss of freedom, the death of friends and relatives and even hunger. Now, China's infection rate is low in comparison with the global standards, but President Xi Jinping has doubled down on a zero-COVID policy. He wants the country to efficiently coordinate in preventing and controlling the COVID-19 infection while also keeping economic and social development in mind. The authorities say that it is needed to protect the elderly and also the country's medical system, even as other countries are trying to live with the virus. All right, now to give us more insights in terms of what the situation is like in Shanghai, we're joined in by our correspondent, Richard Kimber, who's tracking the developments very closely for us from Hong Kong. Now, Richard, how bad is the situation in terms of the COVID-19 infections in Shanghai, and what measures is the administration there taking to keep the numbers under check?
Well, by global standards, the situation is really very good. There were 11 infections reported today on Friday, 6 yesterday on Thursday, and prior to that there were no infections reported earlier in the days this week. But that's enough of a concern for the authorities to reimpose these strict measures, including a weekend of lockdowns and mass testing across around half of the city's districts. And the big problem this is creating is just the unpredictability of the authorities' actions, not least for residents who, of course, are venting their frustrations on social media at having not really had much warning with regards to this second round of lockdowns in the last 2 months, but also for the many international businesses that are either based in Shanghai or rely on the operations in and around the Shanghai area for their global supply chain. There are concerns that just as they were forced to basically shut down much of their factory output operations over the last couple of months, that this may be the start of a pattern of similar disruptions over the next few months that they simply won't be able to prepare for.
Absolutely. Now, that of course is going to be a huge challenge for the people and also for the government there. Because if you keep having these repeated lockdowns, then how badly is it likely to affect the businesses, and what kind of losses will these businesses will actually sustain?
We're seeing a wide range of economic implications. First of all, on the domestic front, we've seen retail spending slump, we've seen factory output slump over the last couple of months with zero activity really on a daily basis in Shanghai. But the international implications are very real. We've heard from companies like Apple saying that they can't supply MacBooks to customers in the US as quickly as they would like to be because of these lockdowns. Adidas, Tesla, all these types of big international brands are reporting problems with their factory productions in the Shanghai greater region. Now, the concern is that over the very longer term, some of these companies, from a Chinese perspective, may be forced to simply diversify their supply chains elsewhere, perhaps to Vietnam, perhaps to Bangladesh, other places where they might already have operations, in an effort to try to reduce their dependence on what is becoming an increasingly unreliable and unpredictable factory market in China. But talking to analysts, they think that's probably unlikely in the short to medium term because there's simply too much already invested in China, and for the time being, the effort really is to try and find a way to work around these restrictions. And in previous months, what we've seen is companies asking their staff to basically live in their factories or live in their company headquarters so as to not need to go home anymore, as a means to try to prevent what is potentially a COVID-19 risk. That's what's called a closed loop system in China, and has been the only means by which some of these companies have been able to keep operating.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Richard Kimber, for joining us and getting us all those insights there. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.